Dear friends in the Dhamma, this is my Dhamma talk about Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. Now, Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta is usually translated as impermanence, suffering and not self nature. There are many books on Buddhist philosophy out there, but we get very few books which are really practical and which are about meditation, giving instructions of actually how to practice the Buddhist teaching. The Buddhist Bible is called the Tripitaka or Tipitaka, and it is not only one book. So there are about 20 or 25 books comprising the Tripitaka, which means the three sections of the Buddhist teaching. Many people say if it is in the Tripitaka, it is proven to be right. It must be the word of the Buddha. But if you check carefully, you will see that the Tripitaka was actually written down about 500 years after the Buddha. And before that, it was going from mouth to mouth. The teacher was teaching the disciple, and that disciple his disciple. And so it went on from mouth to mouth, and that's the way they preserved the Buddhist teaching. So only 500 years later they started writing it down in Sri Lanka and also in China. And even between the two versions there's quite a big difference. So meaning there are, naturally, whenever you write something down after such a long time, it is subject to your own understanding. So the way the authors understood the Buddhist teaching, the texts have been changed. So we cannot say it is proven to be right, or is the right teaching of the Buddha, or is the right type of Buddhism because it is in the Tripitaka. We have to rely on something else completely. And that else is our experiential understanding in meditation or in vipassana meditation. So any part of the Buddhist teaching is practical. So if you can experience it, if you can use it in your day-to-day life, then you can be sure it is the teaching of the Buddha. In Theravada Buddhism, the practice is called vipassana meditation. It is also translated as mindfulness or awareness meditation. So in this type of meditation we watch our mind, we watch the six senses, and we retrain our mind not to grasp anything. We try to retrain the mind not to be greedy, not to pick up anything, but instead to let go, just to lean back and watch whatever is going on in your body and mind. So there are two different types of meditations, samatha and vipassana. Samatha is the concentration part and vipassana is the insight part. The Buddha recommended to start with samatha meditation till you reach something called jhana or absorptions, and then to do vipassana meditation in order to gain wisdom, understanding, and use vipassana meditation to free your mind from all defilements. Meditation is a living activity. So we have lots and lots of books out there, even about meditation. But according to one insider, about 90% of all the books on meditation are written by people who don't meditate. Because usually meditators are not the book writers. They are the practical people who teach meditation, but they hardly write about it. But having said that, there are a few books out there which are really good, which are practical, and which explain a very practical meditation technique. Sitting down in meditation, you will very quickly realize meditation is not easy. It's not easy to calm the mind, to focus on one point, and to let go of all the impressions coming into your mind. Simply because the mind has been used for thousands of years, for lifetime after lifetime, to hold on to things. So we develop this ego, this I or me or mine idea, in order to preserve our identity, our reality. But while we grasp and hold on to things, life is passing by. So we miss out on this great opportunity to understand how our mind is working, how to free our mind from all the defilements, and how to reach our levels of awakening. If you do practice meditation, you come to another level of awareness, another quality of life. So life will be much smoother, much easier, much less troubles. You will start living your life, enjoying your life, and attain real peace and happiness. Reality is changing from moment to moment. Even our physical appearance is changing from moment to moment. All the things around us are changing from moment to moment. But the thing that is changing the most is your mind. While your body may look the same over 1 or 2 or 3 years' time, the mind is changing within seconds. From second to second, the mind is changing from one thing to the other. So if you sit down and meditate and watch your mind, the first thing you usually realize or understand is anicca, is the impermanence of all things. The mind usually tries to analyze things as pleasant or unpleasant. So we are used to hold on to pleasant things, and we are used to push away the unpleasant things. But what is in the middle? In the middle is the neutral sensation. And mostly we get neutral impressions from the 6 senses. About 70 or 80% of all the impressions are neutral. But they appear dull and uninteresting to our mind. So the mind is constantly hunting for pleasant sensations, pushing away the unpleasant and ignoring the neutral. All this you will understand in your Vipassana meditation, that there are 3 types of reaction, how the mind is reacting to the 6 senses. So anicca is the impermanence. Everything is changing from moment to moment. So if you sit in your meditation, you will realize that all the impressions from the 6 senses are impermanent, anicca. The only thing that is permanent is your spiritual attainment. So once you realize levels of awareness, levels of enlightenment, we call them Makkabala. Those stages of enlightenment are permanent. So let's say you attain a stage of awakening, of enlightenment in this life. You die, you are reborn somewhere else. But that spiritual experience will be still there. So liberation is actually an inside job. The root of suffering is attachment. The only thing you need to become enlightened is your own mind. You need a little understanding of the most important teaching of the Buddha. You have to know how this meditation system, this technique of Vipassana is working. But then you can sit down anywhere, alone in the forest, under a tree, in your room, wherever you are, and you practice your meditation, and you can reach levels of awakening. So we have to see the Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta in the 6 senses. You should see that the forms coming to the eyes are Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. So are the sounds, smells, tastes, feelings and thoughts. Everything is changing from moment to moment. Yam picchang na labade tam pitukkang. Now here in this context, ichang means desire. So whatever we grasp, whatever we hold on to, leads to suffering. But the opposite is also true. Whenever we let go of all the impressions, we can free our mind from all desires. Chati pitukkha, chara pitukkha. Now the arising, chati, the rising of the 6 senses and the grasping leads to dukkha. Charapi dukkha. Now the passing away of pleasant things is again suffering or dukkha. So whatever we grasp is suffering. When we grasp pleasant things, they pass away because they are also impermanent. That again leads to suffering. So we try to endlessly flee from pain and endlessly seek for pleasures. That is what the mind has been conditioned to do, to hold on to pleasant things and to let go of all the unpleasant things. Dukkha, suffering, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So all these impressions from the six senses are impermanent. If you hold on to them, they are suffering and they will lead to more and more bondage. But if we train our mind not to grasp anything, it is just an impression. It is impermanent. I watch it arise and pass away, but it is not dukkha, it is not suffering. So I can retrain my mind to create dukkha, suffering, and to create new karmas from moment to moment. Sabbe dhamma anatta. All things are meaningless. So all these impressions from the six senses are basically empty or meaningless. The Buddha says everything is Mahamaya or mind-made. We create our reality around us. So everything out there is without any meaning or substance. It is just mind-made, an illusion of our own mind. So Anicca-Dukkha-Anatta has to be understood concerning the six senses. So if we sit in meditation and watch our six senses, we see how the desire arises. We grasp pleasant impressions leading to desire. We see how it leads to disadvantage. So whenever we hold on to something which is impermanent, it leads to disappointments. And the more we hold on to it, the more we get bound up, the more we are in control. But whenever we watch the six senses and we do not grasp them, we just let them pass away. It does not lead to dukkha, and it leads to liberation. Liberation from all kinds of bondages. You can't ever get everything you want. It is impossible. Let's say you have a child and you give the child any toy, anything it wants. But the child is still unhappy. Look at her face. She's angry, she's unhappy. She does not enjoy her life. So what is the reason why this child is suffering? It is its own grasping, its own desire. It wants so many things which it cannot get. It wants to do so many things which are impossible. So the best thing, if you want to help your child, is not to bring toys and toys and toys. You have to train your child not to hold on to things. Explain some Dhamma to the child. Teach some meditation. And train your child to let go of all the desires. And you will end up with a really, really happy child. There are two ways to get enough. One is to continue to accumulate more and more. The other is to desire less. Continue to live a normal life, but from a whole new viewpoint. Now, if we introduce the Dharma into our day-to-day life, if you start with meditation, if you try to retrain our mind not to grasp anything, you will start living your life on a completely new level, on a much higher, more peaceful, more serene level. It does not mean that everybody has to become a monk or a nun. You can continue to live your life, to have all your enjoyments in your life on a higher spiritual level. So just try to do some meditation, investigate the Dharma, the Buddhist teaching. It is very practical and it can revolutionize your whole life. So I hope that all of you will be continuing their Dharma practice, their meditation, their training in awareness and mindfulness. Try to see the Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta, the impermanence, the suffering, and the non-self nature of all things. Try to understand those three terms on a deeper experiential level. So may you all be well and happy, enjoy your meditation and reach stages of awakening. Etang santang etang banitang yadidang sappa samkara samato sabupadi padinis sakko tanhakkayo virago nirodo nibbano.